Thank you, everyone. Welcome to my one second presentation. This is my first presentation, so I'm very excited to talk about this. It's a very important topic to me. And so, yeah, let's begin. Why build a community online? Well, there are many reasons. An online community can mean a group of best friends. It can mean authentic self-expression. It can mean a horizon of endless possibilities to achieve and coordinate goals with a world of others. In a globalized world where local social outlets have declined and mass entertainment has gone online and mainly interactive, it makes sense that the demand for an online community would rise exponentially. Why do I do it? That's what my dad always asked me. Why do I spend like countless hours and ceaseless thought and energy into building a community? Well, it's for a few reasons. I do it because I see the demand, and also because it's fun. I lead a gaming community. But also, I see the true potential of the online community, the true scalability and power of a community built and led with just a few truths in mind. There are so many digital leaders today, especially in the gaming scene, that I see, and yet so many of them have such a limited view and limited scope as to the capability of their communities. And they don't collaborate with each other to share knowledge and really improve the technique of leadership, which makes others like new community leaders have to start from scratch. But online communities are not just for gamers. They're for everything. And that brings us to today's main point. The role of a leader within an online community has become extremely important and accessible in everyday life. Despite the rising popularity, there is a lack of knowledge and understanding of the mechanics behind an online community. So many people don't know the why of how it works and really the behind the scenes of the whole thing. However, there are key principles and skill necessary to start a community which can be utilized to aid new leaders and grow communities. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so, let's start with the platform. When choosing a platform, there's some, wait a minute, one sec. There you go, my bad. When choosing a platform, there's some key factors that you have to keep in mind. And it's a very important choice. It's, where your audience is going to be, it's how you're going to build it. It really, describes the limit to your community. Well, firstly, it's picking one that fits your members. Who are the people you want in your community? Who's your community for? And so what platform do they already use? There's nothing more frustrating when I'm going to recruit into my community, right? And it's like they're all excited about it, they love to do it, and then, oh, they don't have Discord. Oh. And so, yeah, it's very important. And to find the right platform the right platform for your audience, there's a few ways you can do it. You can look at other communities that are similar to yours and see what they use. Of course, you can also ask around, and you can also look at content produced by your audience, and what communities do they plug in into their socials, into the promotions and all that. And so using those methods, it's very important. Using those methods is very important to choosing the right platform. But besides the audience, there's more to a platform. It has embedded features in the software that allows the community to be organized and expand. Organization tools like channels and roles allow for the organization of a community to grow in complexity and be scalable as the community grows in size. Although most platforms do have like direct messaging, having it be extremely accessible for the leadership to DM any member of the community becomes extremely important with the greater size, as will be discussed even further. Of course, moderation capabilities are obviously very important, and the benefits of being anonymous depends on the type of community that you're building. Gosh, okay. A very underrated feature of communities that I think are very important is the ability to collect data. robust search functions, or perhaps, having all the messages stored in the server or in the community. It is so useful in order to learn from the community's history, just looking back on it, but also in order to collect data, and the ability to collect numbers, such as recruits, such as attendees for your events, and all that kind of stuff. And so having those features very important. Now, once you choose a platform, you want to go and make a digital space on it for your community. In this presentation, I'll just walk through how that works on Discord as an example of making that digital space that your community can inhabit. For any platform, you'll just go to the website, go ahead and sign in, log in, or make an account if you haven't already. And after that, you'll go ahead and make a server. On Discord, it's making a server, but for other communities, it may be different. After you go ahead and do that, you want to go ahead and, when you're going to make a server, on Discord specifically, you want to go ahead and choose a custom template and choose the size for a community and club. After that, you want to go, and once it's made with some customizability options, you want to go ahead and make the channels and roles of the community. Channels are how you organize the communications of the community, and having category permissions also allows the organization of the community, the different roles and types of members. It allows for scalability, and it's very important for organizing it. As for role permissions, you want to keep in mind that not to give admin to roles, since it's not necessary, and also you got to make sure to give them roles to see message history. It's very annoying if you don't. A lot of complaints. Now, while you're choosing a platform, making a server, you want to know the mechanics of your community, which will operate behind the scenes and not only grow your community, but also help in decision-making as it grows. So, let's talk about the mechanics, shall we? The first mechanic of the community is recruitment. Sort of obvious. Recruitment is inviting members not in your community, but in your audience, and it's inviting them to the community and making them a member. It directly increases the size of the community, and having consistent recruitment is very ideal because it allows, not only does it secure the community's future, but also allows for forward-thinking leadership, knowing that there's a constant income of people and just like recruits coming in, keeping the server active and participating. When thinking about recruitment, you want to think about the place you are recruiting, which you derive that information from the people you are recruiting. Who are these people? What do they do? That's going to tell you where they're going to be. And by place, we mean digital places as well, especially if it's an online community. And as such, the type of people you're recruiting also informs you the best process as to how you want to invite them to your community. These will depend variously on what kind of community you're building. However, the universal skills for all recruitment will benefit from confidence, patience, and having initiative, making sure to reach out to those people. Each of these mechanics I associate with a class or rank within the community. I call them ranks because most gaming communities have it like military style. That's why they're called ranks. But they can apply for non-military communities, obviously. For recruitment, I associate most closely with the lower ranks, which act as the newer members of the community. The newer members of the community, they enjoy the community and benefit from it proportionate to their participation in it. And yeah, it's important to always have a stream of new low ranks and new members into the community for the reasons I just specified. Moving on from recruitment, the second mechanic is communication. And by this, I mean directly via DMs. Of course, communication happens within the digital space, but with direct messaging, it creates individual personal relationships which provide the social infrastructure of the community. Communication is the glue of the community. It bonds and connects the community together, keeping it centered and together against disintegration, which after a certain size becomes a real threat to community to a certain. And so to that extent, communication is vital for communities of a large size. Inactivity is a fatal lack of participation for a community, and communication is the solution against it. You know, people get busy, people forget, some people don't have their notifications turned on for your server, happens all the time, and communication totally resolves this issue, because by directly messaging your members, by reaching out to them, you keep the community in their minds, and even in that instance they're not available, they might become available in a week, in a month, maybe even a year, but it is in their mind. These communications not only increase the activity of the server and therefore your participation, but it's also important to build independent relationships with them, personal individual relations. As I was saying before, it provides the social infrastructure. Social infrastructure is the collective individual connections which form the basis of the community, and the strength of this and the distribution of this is the design of the community. And as such, it is very important to communicate. And yes. Now regarding communication, the best advice is to just make sure to communicate with semi-regularly with inactive people. You never know when they're going to become interested again, or when they're going to be able to participate again, where they're going to be not busy anymore. And yeah. Although communication involves all the ranks and people of the community, I've associated it with high ranks in particular because high ranks are leaders, and leaders are made by communication. Leadership itself involves a ton of communication, and as the team of leadership expands with the complexity and tasks of the community, it becomes absolutely necessary to communicate with each other with increasing amounts. High ranks in a community are the only members which have an ongoing responsibility to the community, besides following the rules, and because of that, it is ultimately a position of service. In exchange for this service, high ranks are granted help with decision-making and some authority within the community. Regarding the amount of high ranks, it's important to only scale them up to the complexity and different tasks of the community. That is because they require communication, sometimes training, requires effort to keep them around. As such, you don't want to have high ranks that don't do anything, only proportion to the complexity of the community. After communication, it is the third and final mechanic, the event. In one sense, an event is the goal of a community. And that's because participation is currency, and the effectiveness and power of a community is directly associated with the participation of its members. By concentrating the participation of these members in time and digital space, the community is able to express itself, fulfill its purpose, and do its service to its members. The event also becomes a sort of microcosm, a miniature model of the entire community. The relations between the event host and the attendees mimics the relations between the leaders and the members of the community. And obviously, tons of communication revolves around events, and additionally, recruitment as well revolves around events. I myself always recruit during events, and it's just the most efficient way to do it. As for the rank associated with the events, I've associated them with the middle ranks, which are full members of the community, which are often reliable, and which are often, and which have usually more skill and just been in the community for a much longer time than low ranks and new members. This is because, why did, one more thing regarding the events. When you're timing events, you want to figure out the frequency, the duration of the event, and also just like the type of events. You can't really, it's highly variable depending on your community, and because of that, there's not much more to say about it. However, its importance cannot be understated, and as such, I've associated the events with the middle ranks because the events, at least in my community, is how lower ranks become middle ranks. Now, each of these three mechanics work together to form the community. They're all interconnected, they all relate, and they all change each other in some way. Recruitment and communication increase the event attendance. Events increase recruitment, like I just stated, which are kept integrated and together with the community thanks to communication. And communication, of course, binds it all together, allows for the community to be scalable. Even the numbers of these three ranks, those can all be directly impacted by your amount of each activity. If you want more low ranks, recruit more. If you want more middle ranks, you have to host more events, and so on and so forth. And even the amount of these ranks give you the capability in order to communicate event and recruitment, and determines the amount and the capacity for that. Now, these fundamentals are great and all, but leadership isn't only about knowing the theory of behind the scenes of how a community works. It's about actually having the skills to be a leader. These skills of leadership can be used for three purposes, each building off of one another and in their own ways of developing and being gained. Firstly, there's skills in building social capital, making friends, and building relationships, obviously fundamental to leadership. These skills for gaining social capital include basic conversational skills such as likability and agreeability, which is important to get rid of friction and helps build connections. An outgoing initiative, it is extremely important in order to build social capital because you cannot wait for people to come to you. You have to reach out in order to build something, and that includes social capital, includes building connections. Empathy is another important skill, as empathy enables understanding. In order to gain those skills of conversational skills, initiative, being empathetic, reading lots of books because of linguistic mastery for conversation, and also just practicing and building confidence. Now, becoming a leader in an already established community, it builds all the social capital skills, but it adds a few additions as well. Now, this is, by becoming a leader, I'm not talking about building your own community yet. I'm talking about being in a community, wanting to have a leadership role within that community. In order to do that, it requires a lot of commitment. It requires time. It requires showing up, showing that you care, showing that that you participate, and that also that you know what you're doing, and that you're competent as well. This obviously requires time to build the social capital within the community, and so because of that, it requires lots of patience. Additionally. Now, to develop this competence, patience, and commitment, it's going to require a lot of time and thought. And now, this is easy if you're passionate about it, but if you're not, then you probably shouldn't be becoming a leader of that particular community. Just because it's going to be hard to find. Finally, the last sort of like digital leadership skills, it's building social infrastructure. And by this I mean either starting a community or already leading a community and then expanding it to a scale where it requires a reform of the organization, where it has to change in order to build those connections and to sustain that size. This activity is the most difficult, and it requires relentless determination to be successful. It requires a keen inquisitiveness in order to innovate. Innovation is highly required in building social infrastructure. And also requires creative thinking to solve the numerous problems that you receive. All of these abilities require a healthy dose of inspiration and ambition. And although it is more difficult, I find it a lot more rewarding than just leading alone, because when you're building a community or when you're expanding it where it has to be built, it really gives you a distinct character, as you are the designer, and the design is directly representative of you, and it's unique. Now, these skills are very important, and you can't lead without them. But if that's the case, why even have the theory behind the mechanics and other similar conclusions? Like, why even have the mechanics thing that I just talked about? Well, there's a few reasons. For one, what I call theory is just the organized skills and knowledge. Theory can act as a tool to figure out what to do, and also as a guideline in order to design a community that you're building. It can be a jumpstart for expertise without needing years of experience in the beginning. And it also provides a language for discussing other communities and comparing and contrasting operations and functions between them, comparing how they all are different and compare to each other. Now, of course, the organized knowledge and skills of community leadership is very low at the moment. That's because, as I was saying in the beginning, people don't really share. People don't teach others. However, the future possibilities of these are really endless. If expanded, for example, my concepts of mechanics can be especially useful for visualizing new scales and perhaps make common models of development between different communities, similar to the demographic transition model. I've actually used numerical conclusions a few times. They're not as accurate because there's not too much data yet, but conclusions regarding the minimum amount of recruits needed and also the probability of success regarding communication, perhaps the impact of friction and gravity. These are all potential developments if more data and numbers were collected for a theory. And of course, like I said, having a common language to discuss the causes and effects of different reforms would be very useful for comparing and contrasting different communities and then deciding which forms to develop, how to develop. And regarding notes on creating your own theory, since it is important to learn from your mistakes and not be constantly repeating yourself and to avoid like patterns of failure and all that, even if you're not sharing with others, there are a few notes to be taken. One, data collection. You have to collect, you gotta have some numbers, because you never know when you'll want them and you'll really regret not having them. For me, I collect data on recruits, event numbers, and weekly attendees, different people per week. The major one that you have to have is some sort of number to quantify participation, since participation is the currency of community. And without that number, you kind of don't know if you're making progress or growing as a community, or if you're like just remaining stagnant. So that's a very important number to have. Other things to collect is, and to really like document, include reforms and events. Events are just great to look back on and to remember. They also contain a lot of information. But additionally, reforms are obviously very impactful since they do change the organization and perhaps the social infrastructure of the community. The other thing to keep in mind with theory is that it gets more useful as you grow in scale, not only as you gain experience and so you know what is actually true and what isn't, but also as you gain more data, and so the individual factor of certain individuals becomes less impactful, and the guiding principles and the guiding principles of community leadership as a whole becomes more apparent. Which brings us back to our main point, which is digital leadership is important. Online communities are becoming more popular and successful every year, every day, every week, you know. And you have to consider, and considerations of making a platform include, not making a platform, considerations and making community include the platform, include organization, include the mechanics, the design of the community, how the communication is designed, the ranking system, how easy it is to gain one rank over the other, how difficult it is in regards to all that sort of stuff, and just the mechanics behind it and the theory behind it. Keeping track of data and using theory can aid new leaders and grow communities, and that is my talk for today. Thank you all for attending. Yeah, we are open for questions now, and if we don't answer questions already, you can email me. Yes? Talking, going to people directly. But also, the thing is with my community is that it is a gaming one, so like, we'd only recruit in the games that we already play in. But yeah, the best technique is, at least for that, is it's the place. Like, we know that we know that they're part of our audience since they're in the game that we play. And then from that, the best process is just like reaching out and asking directly. Of course, you're not going to get everyone. Actual games. Well, our games are usually multiplayer. They have a lot in common with like MMOs. So it doesn't really work too well with single player or games that are more like party styles where it's like you have to like join a party to do that. And so, yeah, in the game, we go up to people and ask, hey, if you want to join. A lot of times, because they're similar to MMOs, they have their own like guild or faction systems, and the ability to collaborate and have others help you in a game is also an incentive to join, since like playing games is more fun with people. You get bored if you don't, and you also get, and it's also like a lot of people in our community have resources that they give to others, like new members of the community, or they can, teach new skills in the game. Yeah. Yeah. I don't do that at the moment for my recruitment, but like looking at the results, like it does help. It does help to have that other sphere of recruitment. So yeah, I definitely recommend that. Like it depends on the type of community it is. Because like if you have the capability to just go up to people directly and have it be convenient, they're already doing the thing that, distinguishes them as part of the audience, well, of course they're going to, make sense. But otherwise, yeah, Twitch streaming makes a lot of sense, and so does YouTube. What is, okay, yeah, yes. How do you handle moderation? As you're at the very start, you can do the moderation. It depends on the size of the community. A lot of it is having that like culture already, where it's like either the people that started in the community already, you don't have to worry about that pretty much. And then from there, when people go in, they sort of like assume, okay, that's the culture and all that. And when they don't, it's only like one person that's an issue pretty much. But also, another important thing is, at least for Discord, it's like invite only. And so you're sort of like either you already have contacted that person beforehand, so you know where they're coming from, or you have part of your team already knows that person. So in that sense, like knowing who's coming into the community already, that helps a lot as well. Yes, role system for sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely like it's definitely like difficult sometimes to draw a line where it's like, do you want to moderate against this or let it happen, or do you want to warn? It is sort of like a difficult thing, and I think that's why because you're always going to have those difficulties no matter what, and like of course, it's better when you handle it, but to a certain scale, you have to have others, and they have their own personalities and ways of doing it. It becomes not like equal in terms of like the same standards applied. So yeah, but in that case, the best way to handle it is just to have that culture at the very start and not let it like develop. And so from there, you can sort of like get people assuming and stuff. And also, if people like respect you, they kind of like fear you sometimes, so it's fine. All right, is that all the questions for today? Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. Everyone enjoyed this session.